By this point in the video, you should have finished neighborhood visits number 1 and number 2. This video will pick right up where those other two had left off, and we will start on neighborhood visit number 3. Now, you should all be looking at your reading notes, neighborhood visit 3, and first start with part 1. Read the introduction to section 5 and the subsection the have-nots struggle to survive. Then answer these questions. What are the living conditions for Mexico City's recent migrants? And what are the living conditions for Mexico City's working poor? After you have answered these questions, you will then get the statistics that you will write down into this area right here. Now remember, we're only giving you 3 statistics, so it may only be population density, green space, and percentages of homes built with good materials. In that case, you would only fill out these 3 boxes. All right? If I were to give you population density, percentage of homes built with good materials, and percentage of homes with water, then I would only use those 3 boxes. We only give you 3 statistics, so you should only have 3 statistics written down in this section. Down here is where you're going to create your graph of those 3 neighborhoods or those 3 statistics, and then you're going to write down the numbers of the delegaciones that it could possibly be. All right, now notice that we are only reading from Sylvia Martinez down here to the haves live well. We are only reading this section. We are not going to read the haves live well until we start section 4 or 5. You'll go ahead and read that on your own, answer those questions. You should pause this video until you have read and fill out those. Once you have finished those, you can restart the video. By this point, you should have read that section and filled out the appropriate first 2 questions. This is our neighborhood number 3. Now, we will notice some differences between neighborhood number 3 and neighborhood number 1. In both cases, we would say that the people that living in these areas are probably poor. But we can definitely see differences between what the homes are made of in neighborhood 3 versus neighborhood 1. In neighborhood 1, most houses were built with tarps, no windows, no structure, no actual building. In neighborhood 3, we see that this structure, although it may not look as safe as we would like, is made of good materials, bricks. We see steel columns. We see tin roofs. We see that there are windows and entrances, whereas we did not see that before. We also see that neighborhood 3 is going to have some form of running water. While it may not be in each individual apartment, we would see down in this area, this is where the water would be. Now this lady right here, she's washing the clothes for the neighborhood or for the building. Here we see the washer and the dryer back here, and these tubs as well are being used to do laundry. We also meet a lady here, and this is her house and her 4 sons. This last boy right here is not one of her sons, but is just a young man that's over to play with her kids. Again, notice the differences between this area and neighborhood 1. Again, while we might not think that this is the nicest place to live, for these people, it is made of good quality materials, and she even has running water in what she is able to do all of her work with. Now, the statistics for neighborhood 3, there is 22 square feet of green space per person. The percentage of homes built with good materials is 78%, and the percentage of homes with water is more than 75%. Make sure you have that information copied down into your chart for neighborhood 3. Now the first thing we should be looking at is that green space per person. Now we said our green space per person was 22 square feet, and so we would be looking in this gray section of under 30. Find the corresponding federal districts that fit into that category and write them down all the way to the left of your chart right now. You can pause this video while you do that. The next thing we should be looking at is the homes built with good materials in the federal district. Now we said, according to our chart, that the homes built with good materials was 78%. Now we see that 78% is going to lie in between 75 and 85, and so we're going to be using this gray or this dotted area again. Find the 4 federal districts that have that and write them down in the middle column. You can pause this video. Finally, the last one is the number of homes with in-house water supply in the federal district. Now, according to our chart, we said the number of homes is more than, make sure we pay attention to this, more than 75%. Since it is more than 75%, we are going to be looking at this dark gray area, over 75%. You can copy down the federal districts that fit into there in the column all the way to the right. Pause this video while you figure it out, and also make sure that you are now cross-referencing the three columns to figure out which federal district fits in all three columns, and then come up with the name of that federal district. Once you have figured that out, then you can continue to play on this video. Based on the information that we have given, and based on the fact that there's 22 square feet of green space per person, that 78% of the homes are built with good materials, and more than 75% of the homes have water inside of them, the federal district must be Iztacalco, right here. Let's move on to neighborhood visit number 4. Now, neighborhood number 4, you should read subsection number 5 called the Haves Live Well, and then answer these questions. What types of jobs do the middle class of Mexico City have, and how does this affect their lifestyles? Who belongs to Mexico City's upper class, and what type of lifestyles do they have? Now, again, we're only going to give you 3 statistics into this section. All right? So figure out the 3 that you need, and then you need to come up with a federal district, based on these, a federal district that you believe that this person lives in. So again, you're only going to be reading this section right here now. The Haves Live Well. Pause this video while you read and answer those questions. Once you have finished, then press play again. This is neighborhood number 4. We can see a stark contrast between neighborhood 4 and the previous 3 neighborhoods. Neighborhood 4, we can see what we mean when we say green space per person. Look at this area of the fence here, and think about the amount of green space that this home must have. Notice out here, the green space, the trees. All of this costs a lot of money to maintain, to put in, and to keep up. And so we would definitely start to make some predictions about this neighborhood. Notice the difference in the materials that the house is made of. This house is made of stucco, or adobe brick with stucco over the top of it. We see clay tiles on the top. We see nice windows with balconies. We even see this entrance with a nice wrought iron gate. All of this costs a lot of money and would suggest that the standard of living in neighborhood 4 is much higher than the previous 3 neighborhoods. This is the man and his family that live in neighborhood 4. He originally worked in the United States and then moved to Mexico City with his family because he could find a good job and have a good life in Mexico City. The statistics for neighborhood 4, the population density is 34,000 people per square mile. The percentage of homes built with good materials is 94%, and the number of police officers is 1,300. So, first map you should be looking at is your population density of the federal district. Cross-reference the data that we give you with the proper portion here in your people per square mile, and then write down in one of your columns the federal districts that you believe fit into that area. You can pause this video while you look at that. Next, we should be looking at the number of homes built with good materials in the federal district. Cross-reference your numbers with the percentage of homes in your key, and then find the federal districts that you believe fit into that area. Finally, look at the number of police officers. Use the statistics that you have, and then write the federal district numbers down in that last column. You should now cross-reference each one of those and find the one that fits in all 3 columns. Write the name down of that federal district, and then move on to the next slide. Do not start until you've actually gone through and done this work. It is an important part of the process that you will need to complete on the test. Based on the neighborhood 4 statistics, the population density should be 34,000 people per square mile. The percentage of homes built with good materials is 94%, and there are 1,300 police officers. Based on this information, it should have been Benito Juarez. Finally, the last thing we'll talk about is poverty in Mexico. Measuring poverty in Mexico's 31 states. And notice that it says poor housing, low income, and literacy are the main factors used to measure poverty. And so as we look through this area, we see that we go from very high poverty to very low poverty. And only two districts, Nuevo León and Baja California Norte, have very low poverty. The rest of them fit into this area. And so when we talk about spatial inequality, while we looked at Mexico City, which is right down in here, we can see that spatial inequality exists in a state form and in large comparison as well. Now this can be compared to the world as well when we talk about spatial inequality. And that idea of standard of living, of what people believe that they need to exist and live, changes for each area that we'll be looking at. And we can look at global scales as well. For now, make sure that your packets are all done. I will be collecting them tomorrow in class. Don't forget that tomorrow in class you will be getting your study guide. Your test will be on Friday. And make sure that we are ready to go.